Hello and welcome to the podcast Eat Better Food Today. I'm your host Ken Coonahan. I'm excited to be sharing insights on why we believe that health and longevity begins with the food we eat. The goal of this podcast will be to inspire, educate, and enable folks to live a healthier life and do it affordably. My wife and I have been on this journey for over 10 years and continue to work on it every single day. Percent of the profits from this podcast will be put towards child hunger with an initial focus on the poor suburb in America, East Cleveland, Ohio. As a reminder, please be sure to visit my website, Eat Better Food Today, for links on this show, videos, recipes, books, and articles that our guests provide. On this episode, we're grateful to have Kristin Warzocha, President and CEO of the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. She became the CEO in 2014 and has been with the food bank since 2000. She leads efforts to engage the community in the work of the food bank. We're over, I don't know if all these numbers are up to date, but at least what I read, 51 million pounds of nutritious food, supports over 400,000 people a year, and has more than 1,000 partners over 6 counties in Northeast Ohio. She was formerly the food bank's vice president of external affairs, oversaw funding, marketing, volunteer services, advocacy, and SNAP outreach. She also worked for the American Red Cross and is a graduate of John Carroll University. In this episode, we'll explore Kristin's thoughts on food, health, and longevity and discuss what continues to inspire her. Welcome, Kristin.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thrilled to be with you here today, Ken.
Thanks for being here. So I always kind of start out with this question, and I think a good start, there's been interesting answers to this, but I still believe that a good start to the day begins with what you have for breakfast. So my first question of the day is what you had for breakfast this morning.
All right. I am a creature of habit. I start every day with a glass of water, then move on to coffee and a banana.
And a banana.
That is my breakfast. Every day I eat a banana in my car while I'm driving to work. I like to start early. So coffee in one hand, decaf coffee actually, believe it or not, and
Wow.
banana in the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at least you're getting something.
Yes. I feel like, I'm starting with fruits and vegetables, which is a good thing.
Go.
My first serving of fruits and vegetables for the day.
Fantastic. So the pantry is also an important food, product of a healthy environment. So I know at the food bank, you've kind of created this new pantry environment we're just talking about. So maybe describe a little bit about what we would find in the pantry today at the food bank.
Sure, I'd love to. So, by way of background, food banks were really started to take in food that might have otherwise gone to waste in the food industry and get that food out to agencies serving people in need. And so, traditional food banking is very much about working with the food industry, working with food donors, working with the community to bring in food on a large scale and to get it out to a network of partner programs. And so that's what we've been doing for 40 years, day in and day out. But a number of years ago, we really started talking about how do we not only address hunger today by making sure that our partner agencies have access to food so that the neighbors in need also have access to healthy food, but how do we start thinking about addressing hunger in the long term, i.e. reducing the number of people who are in need of emergency food. And we've done that in a variety of different ways over the years, connecting people to benefits to provide short-term stability, important benefits like SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, connecting people to other benefits, right, like healthcare, which is critical to keeping people food secure, but then also connecting people to other nonprofit partners to address the underlying issues of food insecurity, employment issues, housing issues, healthcare issues, etc. And so all of that is to say, in November, we opened at our former facility a new community resource center. And as part of this community resource center, not only do we have a beautiful, healthy choice pantry or choice market that is designed to look very much like a grocery store, but we also have 15 other nonprofit partners on site to help people address the underlying causes of food insecurity. So if you were to walk into our market on any given day, you would see a pretty good sized space, probably a 10,000 square foot space, which is much larger than most other food pantries. We're thrilled that we have the space to do that. Shopping carts, where folks can push their cart up and down the aisles. You'd see a beautiful produce section full of fresh fruits and vegetables, Similar to many supermarkets, it is the first aisle you go down, right? And we try to make sure we've got as much variety of fresh produce there as we possibly can, fruits and vegetables. We've got aisles of shelf-stable product, right? Your basics, right? Rice, grains, pasta, cereal. Now, we don't have the same assortment that you would find at a regular grocery store. We might only have one kind of cereal that day, right? One brand of rice. Because much of what's in that pantry is product that's donated from the food industry. It's product we're bringing in from the Department of Agriculture, etc., right? We don't have the sources, right, of a normal grocery store. But we do want people to feel like they've got some choices in the selections they're making. And then the last aisle you're going to go down is our kind of dairy and frozen aisle. And we try to have, as much as we can, dairy items as well as frozen proteins and other items. And, one of the great things about the space is that people are able to select what they want, what their family will enjoy from a wide variety of the nutritious foods available. And there's a lot of dignity that comes with being able to choose, right?
Absolutely.
So we think that's important.
Well, when I visited there, you had, when you went in, and it kind of said on the right where you first walk in, there was this whole container of eggplant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself,
Mm-hmm.
most people don't know what to do with eggplant.
That is
But
true.
then I talked to somebody there was a recipe there. And then when I walked outside, you had your kitchen going and you had somebody cooking a recipe with the eggplant. So I just thought that was fantastic, because if somebody sees all these eggplants they've never cooked with eggplant before, now they know what to do with it when they take it home.
That's absolutely true. We often have things that are unique,
Mhm.
right? Whether it's eggplant or Brussels sprouts or, something else that you or I, may not cook on a regular basis. And so being able to provide nutritious recipes for how to use those products, and also being able to do cooking demonstrations, has really been, I think, a nice addition. And, we've had so many folks from the food industry, restaurateurs, caterers, and just people from our community who love to cook, doing those cooking demonstrations. And the one focus that is consistent, regardless of who's doing the demonstration, is that we want to make sure they're using food out of the pantry that day, so that someone who comes in and sees the demonstration can actually access the products to make that item on site.
Yeah, and you had people tasting the fresh food tastes good.
Absolutely. Learning new recipes and trying things in new ways.
Yeah,
it's really important.
I think Doug Katz, Karen
Yes.
Small have been a couple of your guest chefs out there.
They have been,
yeah.
and people loved hearing from them, and I think they really enjoyed the experience as well.
They did.
Yeah.
So, when you initially joined the food bank, why did you join the food bank? I mean, you have had a lot of probably career options at that point. Why the food bank?
It takes me way back. I've been with the food bank a long time now. Growing up, and actually particularly in college, I did a lot of volunteer work, and much of it was in hunger relief. And so I did enough volunteer work and enough internships that I realized that I might be able to serve a nonprofit for my career, which was a wonderful thing to discover, frankly. And so when I graduated from John Carroll, I had been very involved with an organization called Project Gold, started by an extraordinary community leader who was a classmate of mine, Joe Simperman. He was a Cleveland City Councilman for many years. Now he runs Global Cleveland. But he started this wonderful student service organization. And I was in charge of a group. Every Saturday morning, I drove the John Carroll van and took other students down to make and serve lunch at St. Herman's House of Hospitality on Bridge Avenue.
Okay.
And it wasn't the only place I volunteered, but I think it's the place that I spent the most time. And I really fell in love with the work and the people that we were serving, and became very interested in hunger relief. And so my first job out of college was working for the Harvest for Hunger campaign, which was just an extraordinary opportunity, something I was passionate about. I moved on to the Red Cross, another great opportunity. And one day the food bank called in. And, I was very familiar with the work of the food bank from my time at Harvest for Hunger. They had been two separate organizations back then. We have since merged.
That's one of my questions.
Yeah, we had since merged. But I always just kind of loved the food bank. And the work of the food bank, the scale of the food bank, and of course I care deeply about this issue. You know, I mean, I believe very strongly that no one in our country should go hungry. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
And so I was thrilled to have the opportunity to work for the food bank, and I've been at the food bank ever since. Worn a lot of different hats in my day, but it's an organization that's always working very hard to serve our community better and to serve more people. And so it's a real pleasure and privilege.
Very nice. So that was one of my questions. So Greater Cleveland Food Bank is a member of Feeding America, and you work with Harvest for Hunger. I didn't know you had merged, so that's part of that. So what's the relationship with that Feeding America? I know like Tony Robbins talks about it a lot, and he wants to get 1 billion meals served, et cetera, but
Feeding America is the National Association of Food Banks.
Okay.
So we are one of 199 food banks now across the country who together serve every county in the United States. And we all serve a similar role. You know, while every food bank is different because our communities are different, our programming might be a little different, our sizes are different. You know, we're all bringing in food, right, from the food industry, from most food banks, I think, from the USDA, and from other sources, and then pulling that food into a large size food distribution center and distributing that food to a network of member agencies, right? That seems to be that's the one thing we all have in common. But we also have these wonderful opportunities for learning from each other. We have the opportunity to access sometimes national food donations through Feeding America. So, you know, if a major manufacturer makes a packaging error or has an overrun or simply has surplus product, you know, they miscalculated, something didn't sell like they hoped it would, they could have 6 or 7 or 8 truckloads of one product, right? Which may be more than any one food bank could take. So it will get offered up through Feeding America, and other food banks across the country will have access to some of that product.
Okay.
So, you know, for the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, they're a wonderful partner and provide us with opportunities to seek funding and food donations on a national scale, while also giving us the opportunity to learn from other food banks. So, you know, it's an extraordinary help in my view. But it's a separate national organization, I'll say. We have our own 501c3, our own independent board of directors. It is a membership organization.
Okay. So those other 199 organizations, same thing. They all have their own independent organizations.
Yes, we're all independent nonprofits.
Okay.
Yeah. We're also a member of the Ohio Association of Food Banks. There are 12 Feeding America food banks in the state of Ohio. Together we serve every Ohio county. And we all collaborate as well. We advocate together for food programming statewide. We have a state food program, which are dollars that we are able to secure in the state budget, which we use collectively to buy surplus produce from Ohio farmers, for example, to distribute to our partner agencies, as well as other most needed food items. And, you know, at the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, we distribute a lot of free fresh produce, more than 20 million pounds of free fresh produce a year to our partners. One of the reasons we're able to do that is because of this wonderful program with the state of Ohio that allows us to buy from Ohio farmers.
Wow, so that's half of what you're distributing. That's
almost,
pretty impressive.
Yeah,
wow.
It's so important. And, you know, fresh produce is critical to a healthy diet.
Absolutely.
But it is also, you know, the produce section is one of the more expensive parts of the supermarket. And so if you're on a tight budget, it can be very hard to afford.
Yeah. So what does the USDA do? As far as I understand Feeding America now, but what's their involvement, I guess, in the food bank?
Yeah, so the Department of Agriculture for decades, many decades, has been working nationally to support farmers. And they support farmers in a lot of different ways, right, to keep the farming community in the U.S. strong. One of the ways that they support farmers is supporting pricing. So the USDA will buy surplus commodities from farmers in the United States when there are surplus commodities available to make sure that farmers can stay in business. Once they buy that product, it needs to be distributed. And so that product is distributed through the school breakfast and lunch program and also through food banks.
Okay.
So it's a wonderful source of food.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful source of food. It's free to food banks, which is great. And while we don't always know what's coming too far in advance, right? Because it's based on farm surpluses in part.
Mm-hmm.
We can count on food coming in from the USDA every year, thanks to a program called the Emergency Food Assistance Program and sometimes other programs as well. The USDA also administers the SNAP program, which is formerly known as the Food Stamp Program. And SNAP is our nation's first line of defense in the fight against hunger. For every meal provided by every food bank in the country, SNAP provides 9. So it is a critically important program. It was started because not only does it support farmers, right, in that their food is ultimately being sold through grocery stores, but it also supports people who are in need of healthy food. And so the USDA plays a critical role in administering that program. And we're always working to try to make sure that program is as strong and as effective as it can be.
Very nice. So explain, so you've kind of got the relationships with Feeding America, USDA, I'll just say grocery stores, other organizations have surplus outlets. Then you comes into your distribution center, and then it goes out to this partner network. Can you explain a little bit about the partner network, I guess?
Sure, I'd love to. So we have more than 1,000 program partners that we serve in a 6-county service area. So we provide food to agencies as far east as Ashtabula, so all the way up to the Pennsylvania line, and as far south is the Mansfield area, down in Richland County, which catches a lot of people by surprise. We are the greater Cleveland Food Bank, and we really do mean greater. We go well beyond Cuyahoga County. And it's such a wonderful group of partners. Everybody from a church-run food pantry, like St. Philomena's, right? Yeah. And I'll say, traditionally, a lot of food pantries and hot meal sites are run by churches. But we also have partners who are running community centers, after-school programs. And we have, over the years, sought out non-traditional partners who are serving people in need, and perhaps a specific population in need, where we can also make sure that food is available. So, as an example of that, we have a program called our Kids Cafe program, which provides healthy meals 5 days a week at the end of the school day for lower income kids. We now work with the Cleveland Public Library system, and we're providing meals at the end of the school day at every Cleveland Public Library site. Many of them are in lower income neighborhoods. They have kids going in after school for homework, for the computer lab, for other reasons. And children in need of a meal can get a meal while they're there.
Yeah, I've gone into the East Cleveland Public Library, talked to them about what we're trying to do at the campus site there at St. Philomena's. And I guess they have like a backpack program. They do tutoring, computer. They actually do a lot there.
It's amazing what libraries can and will do. Right? They are neighborhood hubs, and they serve such an important role in a neighborhood and in every community. So we love working with libraries. We also work with Boys and Girls Clubs, senior centers. But one of the really most inspiring things about our work is how many of these agencies are run entirely by volunteers with no paid staff, right? Folks who are giving their own time, sometimes almost full-time work, to make sure that people in need of food are being served.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read a little quote here and then kind of get your thoughts on this. This is about food insecurity specifically. So the National Library of Medicine published some research in February this year, talked about food as medicine, about across the pediatric age continuum. So it talks about the rates of food insecurity were significantly higher the previous year than this year. 12.8% of U.S. households are food insecure. 17.3% of households with children are food insecure. And in children, food insecurity is associated with obviously poor diet quality, poor health, excess health care utilization, lower cognitive performance. And then households with food insecurity issues also have greater healthcare costs, like they said, about $2,400 annually. So they're not only having trouble paying for food, but their healthcare costs are higher because they don't have good food and good nutrition. So I guess I want to kind of get your thoughts on food insecurity, which I'm sure are a few.
Yeah, and there's a lot to dig into there just in that one quote, right? I think most people are shocked by the number of people in our community and across the nation who struggle with food insecurity. You know, in our service area, our 6-county service area, we served 400,000 people last year. That's unique individuals who were served at least once. Now, by a program in our network, they may have only been served once, right? A family who had a financial crisis, couldn't pay all the bills and also put food on the table and went into a food pantry one time. You know, the members of that family would be counted, just as would, you know, a child who went to one of our school markets, for example, or a senior who went to a senior program. But in our 6-county service area, you know, there are about 1.7 million people, which means that we served almost 1 in 4 people.
That's incredible.
Which is eye-opening.
Yeah.
Right? And the impact of food. Now, that, you know, we also serve people who weren't food insecure all the time. They found themselves in temporary need. But the impact of food insecurity can be very long-lasting. You know, there has been a lot of data published recently about the impact of food insecurity on health. And food insecurity has an even more significant impact on your health than poverty does when you look at the data, because you are more likely to be diagnosed with a chronic disease like diabetes, like hypertension. You're more likely to be diagnosed with cancer if you have been food insecure. And so that leads to these higher healthcare costs, right? And a host of other problems. I mean, nutritious food is vital to good health, and when you can't consistently afford it, it has an impact.
Right.
And also on your ability to grow and to learn.
Couldn't agree more. So I attended your event in December when you had kind of the 3 major hospitals in Cleveland there. So what's your relationship with those 3 hospitals? I know all the CEOs got up. I think Metro had their vice president on seat, but they all basically said, we're going to donate X amount of millions of dollars to kind of help with food in Northeast Ohio here. So what's your relationship with them, I guess? Yeah,
well, interestingly, let me say we were thrilled by that announcement. Absolutely over the moon that all 3 hospital systems really stated their commitment to addressing hunger in Northeast Ohio, and that they're doing it together, which is wonderful to see that level of collaboration. You know, we have been reaching out to healthcare partners for 8 or 10 years now, I think, trying to find ways to connect lower income patients with healthy food, right? Based on the conversation we were just having on how vital healthy food is, right? Over time. And so we've actually done different things over the years with different hospital systems. Metro Health was frankly our first partner in this space. They were the first to open an on-site kind of food clinic. We used to call them food pharmacies. Can't call them that anymore. But it was an on-site food pantry, really.
On-site at the hospital?
At the hospital,
okay.
Right? And we worked very closely together. The food bank provided all the food for that, or the majority of the food for that. And they were, I believe, the first to start screening patients for food insecurity. And so when patients would screen positive for food insecurity, many of them would get referred to this on-site food clinic, right? But over time, more and more hospital systems have opened those, which is great. UH has opened a few. We're partners in all of those clinics. The Cleveland Clinic is looking to open some, which we're thrilled about. They've got one that's already open in Akron General, and they're doing some other really important work in this space. And in addition to that, because so many systems now are screening people for the social determinants of health, including food insecurity, we are taking a lot of calls and getting a lot of referrals from healthcare now, from doctors who are screening patients positive and want to make sure they get connected to nutritious food. And our food bank is unique in that we happen to have a wonderful help center. So we've got a whole team who's on the phones every day, taking calls from people in need of food, and we can connect them to a food pantry in their neighborhood. We can help them apply for benefits over the phone. We're one of the only organizations in the state who does that. And we can connect them to other services. And so when we do get a referral from a healthcare partner, we can make sure we get in contact with that person to try to connect them to healthy food. The announcement really talked about not only what we've done, what the hospital systems will be doing, and specifically the Cleveland Clinic is making a really beautiful and significant gift to help us expand our children's nutrition initiative to reach more children in the city of Cleveland with healthy food over the next 5 years. So we're grateful for that. We're grateful for that. I'll say Metro has an FQHC, a federally qualified healthcare clinic, at our community resource center as well. So actually providing healthcare on site, because we know that healthcare challenges are a driver of food insecurity. And so we want to make sure that our neighbors who come in who are struggling with food have access to the healthcare that they need, and that patients who come into Metro who are food insecure can walk down the hall and get food from the market.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. So let's transition to the home environment. So one of the things we like to talk about on here is kind of encouraging more people to cook healthy meals at home, because every time I pass a drive-through in a neighborhood and there's a line of cars out there, not only is it not fast, it's not inexpensive either. So how do you encourage, what are your thoughts on encouraging more people to, so you provide the food, but people have to want to go get the food, they have to want to go home and cook it. And I know in some of these neighborhoods, I either heard or read something that you helped provide a stove for somebody because they didn't have a stove to cook the meals. I mean, there's all kinds of levels kind of here, but it's encouraging people to cook more at home is healthier food. It's better if they have families, it's better to eat together. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think from our perspective at the food bank, right, it starts with having groceries. It starts with having the healthy food that you can cook, and with knowing how to prepare it. And one of the things I've seen over time at our produce distributions, for example, but also through other partners, is that a lot of people like to cook, right? I mean, we have seniors who come in, oh my God, who can stretch $1 like nobody's business, right? But they need to be able to afford the food. Before we opened our community resource center during the pandemic, we opened kind of a pop-up pantry, we were calling it, which was intended to be temporary during the pandemic. It was a food pantry in the city of Euclid. And I was helping a senior citizen shop for groceries. It was her first visit to the pantry. She had never needed emergency food before. She'd always been able to get by. But she was retired. She was living on a very small fixed income, Social Security, and a very small pension. And food prices were up, right? And her rent had gone up. And she couldn't make ends meet anymore. And I'll never forget, we had eggs in the cooler, and she said, oh my Lord, I haven't had eggs in so long, because when I buy eggs when I put eggs in my cart at the supermarket, they're so expensive, sometimes I have to put them back. And, egg prices had gone up significantly. But in the scheme of my grocery bill, right, eggs are one of the more affordable things. So I think it starts with having access to the right food to cook. And sometimes, to having the skill to do it or the tools to do it and the time to do it. And I think that's the other thing. I will fully admit, as a busy working mom of two, I happen to love to cook, and I take pride in trying to gather a family at the end of the day for dinner, right? And having a shared dinner, even if it's late. It doesn't happen all the time, but we make the effort. But when I get really busy and I don't have leftovers to bring for lunch, I sometimes am known to hit a drive-through, right? Because it's fast, right? And I don't have time. And, we see moms, including single moms, who are sometimes working 2 jobs.
Yeah.
And they don't have time either, right? And so, I've talked to neighbors who, stop at a produce distribution after their first job on their way to their second job. And so, having access to that produce is really important. But, life is hard and complicated, and time is a valuable commodity for everybody, including some folks who are lower income in our community. So we're trying to give the groceries. We're trying to have wonderful recipes available, trying to provide a lot of nutrition education, and encouraging people wherever we can.
Fantastic. We'll come back to that question at the end of the show, by the way. But
okay.
So a recent guest of my show, Sarah Continenza.
Yes, she's wonderful.
Yes, she is. Was quoted as saying, "People are overfed and undernourished." That was one of her comments when we talked. So I know the food bank is working on bringing more healthier food to the community.
We are.
So how do you define nutritious whole foods, and why are they important to families?
That's great. So we have worked really hard over the years to try to make more nutritious food available. And we set goals every year to make sure that 75% or more of what we distribute is rated as highly nutritious. And we've got a team who's looking at the nutritional value of the food that we distribute, and able to know it based on ingredients and other things, whether or not that is falls into the highly nutritious ranking. Right now, of course, fresh produce, right, rates highly nutritious all the time, and that's great, and we distribute a lot of it. But there are also lean proteins, dairy, other items that are really important to a healthy diet, and that's a separate area of focus. Not everything we distribute is highly nutritious. I still remember, this was years ago, I was at one of our produce distributions or markets, and I think it was down in Mansfield. It was in the southern part of our service area. And we were in a church parking lot, and there was a huge line, hundreds of people long. And we were always talking about how much nutritious food we distribute at these distributions. And we had a pallet of pastries, right? And it was picked up by a local food donor. We do a lot of pickups at grocery stores. We pick up at every Heinen's, Dave's, Giant Eagle, just about any supermarket you've thought of or you've worked with. We're picking up food there. And so, I'm looking at a lot of fresh produce first and foremost, but also a palette of, cupcakes, cookies, etc. And I was kind of trying to decide how I felt about that, right? And then the woman, the volunteer who was in charge of this mobile pantry, came over to the pallet. And she said, she yelled to everyone in line, "Raise your hand if you've got a birthday this week." And some hands went up. "Raise your hand if you had a birthday yesterday. Raise your hand if your birthday's today," right? Sure enough, she finds a family with a kid whose birthday is that day. And she pulls a cake off this pallet, right? And this kid says, "Oh my gosh, I get a birthday cake." And his mother says, "I never thought I'd be able to afford a cake for him on his birthday." And I thought, okay, you know what? Everything in moderation, right?
Exactly.
Everything in moderation. So, we work really hard to distribute as much food as we can because we know that that's where we're going to have the most nutritional impact. But, every once in a while, a cupcake is all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that you can't ever eat a cupcake. It's not that you can't ever go through drive-through. It's just that you should, try, like you're saying, most of the time, try to eat healthy. That's kind of the goal. I mean, it's just, it's impossible to do that 100% of. You have to be a saint, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be a full-time job almost.
So one of the recent, this is kind of off topic, but one of the recent books I read kind of talks about eat what you like. But if you're going to eat the sweets, like a piece of cake or whatever, eat it last. Eat the vegetables first, protein second, and then kind of the dessert last.
I think that's smart.
Metabolically for your body, it's much better. You can digest it better. So it's kind of interesting philosophy. So.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? And hopefully you're pretty full by the time you get there.
Exactly. Instead of eating the big piece, you're going to eat the little piece. Yeah. So food is very important to health and longevity and avoiding chronic diseases like we talked about, but also exercise is important too. Do you have any just general thoughts on exercise? I think it's important, especially important for children, and then also older adults as they get older to kind of keep active.
Yeah. I'm going to do a little food bank plug here. One of the things that is so critically important to the food bank is our volunteer corps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have more than 10,000 volunteers every year who donate their time to help sort food in our repack room, to help make meals in our production kitchen, to help people shop at our community resource center. And so often I talk to a volunteer who tells me, this was great exercise, right? I mean, we have some retirees who come, I got one retiree who comes 5 days a week. It's extraordinary. But we have retirees who come multiple days a week, and one of the things that they like about it is not just the camaraderie of being around people and knowing that they're doing something great for their community, right? And they're helping other people who need their help, but also that they're getting some great exercise, right? Whether they're walking around packing a bag with food for our Backpack for Kids program, or they're packing items on our conveyor belt, right? Just being active can be really good exercise, and volunteering is good for the soul.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of data around that as well.
There is a lot of data. Yeah,
Yes.
It's the community, the volunteering is kind of, you have a purpose. You're going in to do that every day of the week, or
and we need volunteers. I'll say we still are not back to pre-pandemic volunteer levels. Traditionally and historically, we've had a lot of volunteers who've come from corporate groups. They'll bring 30 or 40 people at a time. School groups making a field trip, bringing a busload of kids. And we're just not seeing the number of groups we used to see. Now, thankfully, during the pandemic, we asked the governor to send in the National Guard, and he did. And so we had National Guard soldiers working in our warehouse, helping us stay operational and provide more food. And now we do have some, let me be clear, corporate groups, and we love them, and school groups, but we also have a lot of retirees, more retirees than we've ever had. And they're just absolutely wonderful and really committed volunteers, and we're grateful. So if anyone listening wants to volunteer, please visit our website. We'll get you signed right up for a shift.
Yeah, my mother-in-law, after she retired, actually worked at the food bank. She went once a week until she's no longer with us.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, she had a great time there.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, loved to volunteer. She loved everything you just said. Loved the exercise, meeting people, talking, helping, volunteering.
My gosh, that's great.
Had a great time. Can you maybe share a story or two of a person or organization that you've kind of have a positive, fond memory of? I guess I'm sure there's many, but
there are so many.
Yeah.
There is a story that will always stick with me. I'll never be able to shake this one, nor do I want to, because it was such an important learning and growing experience for me. I've been at the food bank for 24 years. Prior to that, I'd worked for a couple of years for the Harvest for Hunger campaign. I feel like I know a lot about the issue of hunger and about food banking. And I really felt like I knew a lot of people we serve. I live in Lakewood. One Saturday morning, beautiful Saturday morning, we were doing a produce distribution at church not far from my house at all. And I just kind of popped by to say hello and see how it's going. And I live in Lakewood. I figured I'd probably see some people I knew there. And I did. I saw actually two wonderful women who I adore, walking across the parking lot. And I assumed they were there to volunteer. I'd known them for years. They had worked at my daughter's daycare. Took care of my youngest when she was a baby. And I said, "Oh my God, how are you? It's been so long, making small talk." I said, "Are you here to volunteer?" They said, "No. We're here to get food." And, I always knew, and I'd seen the data about the number of people who are working and still struggling to make ends meet. I knew all the data.
Yeah.
Right? And I also, I'm sure had seen data about what daycare workers make.
Not much.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not much.
Yeah.
But it was such an important reminder for me that, there can be people struggling all around us.
And you just
and sometimes there are even people So, and they're two extraordinary people and important, you know. So I'll never forget, you know, that one or them, frankly, and that is the sort of thing that also inspires me in my work. You know, everyone in our country deserves to have access to the food that they need. Every single person.
Absolutely.
And it shouldn't be so hard.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, what are some changes that we might see in the future at the food bank? I mean, you've done a lot, especially in the last year. You've done a lot, but I mean, anything you would like to get done in the next year or two?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things. So, one is that, you know, we're really thrilled about the early impact of our Community Resource Center. It opened in November, so we've got 5 months under our belt. I haven't yet seen the March data, but in the first 4 months of operation, we'd served more than 20,000 people, distributed more than 1 million pounds of food, the majority of it highly nutritious, and made thousands of connections to other nonprofit partners to help address the underlying sources of food insecurity. And we believe that that's a model that should be expanded. We believe it could be a national model for addressing food insecurity. And so we are currently looking to expand and create another community resource center on the west side, and then ultimately a third community resource center down in the southern part of our service area that will follow that model. So that is something that is a big priority for our organization right now. You know, we also are doing a lot of advocacy. It's an important time for a lot of reasons. The Farm Bill is being reauthorized, so we had a great advocacy committee meeting this morning with a just incredibly talented group of volunteers and board members and staff, you know, talking about how we can do everything we can to try to influence the Farm Bill in a positive way when it comes to nutrition programs, right? And increasing food security. So we're spending a lot of time on advocacy. You know, we also are trying to put our money where our mouths are. One of the leading drivers of food insecurity is low paid work. It is the case that the minimum wage has not kept up with inflation. And there are, I think 50% of the people who receive help from a food pantry nationwide are part of a working family. So just working full time does not guarantee people
right.
food security. So a number of years ago, we started trying to lead by example in increasing our base pay for our workforce at the food bank. And, you know, our workforce at the food bank includes order pickers, cooks, truck drivers, you know, positions that historically have not made enough. The sorts of positions where historically people have had to leave work at the end of the day and go to a food pantry line. And so we are up to almost $20 an hour as our food bank minimum based on principle.
Nice.
Because we don't want anyone at the food bank to have to leave work and go stand in line at a food pantry. And even $20 an hour, you know, money may be tight, but, you know, there are parents in our community at jobs that pay $13 an hour, and it's not enough. And it's certainly not enough to access nutritious food.
Right.
So I think we've got a lot of important and exciting things happening at the food bank.
Very nice. So what would you say your proudest accomplishment is being at the food bank? I have a guess at what you're going to say.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do.
Oh boy. You know, I'm proud of our team every day. We've got an extraordinary team of volunteers and staff who care so much about our mission. I think one of my proudest moments, and also one of our most challenging moments, was during the pandemic. You know, we became essential workers. And so, you know, while our colleagues had friends and family members who were suddenly working from home, a lot of us at the food bank couldn't do that. We needed to be there. And it was a scary time. It was a really scary time. You know, in the early days of the pandemic, people were dying. Yeah. You know, there wasn't access to enough PPE. We didn't know what we were up against. All we knew is that the need was skyrocketing and we couldn't close. And the fact that our team just kept showing up every day and working so hard, and made that commitment, and we're so brave, it still fills me with pride.
And you made it through.
And we made it through.
Kept feeding people, kept providing food, and
yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, stepped up, and our community stepped up too,
Mm-hmm.
in extraordinary ways.
Well, you talked about the National Guard helped out, the governor helped out. I mean, all great things.
Yeah, just about everybody
Yeah.
helped out. We, PPE was a big issue in the beginning. Even hospital and healthcare workers didn't have access to enough masks and gloves and all of those other things. And I will never forget this. I got a call from State Senator Nikki Antonio, who she serves a district on the west side that includes Lakewood. And she said, I've got a group of quilters who are making masks from fabric scraps.
Oh, wow.
Would you by chance need any? And I said, oh my Lord, yes. We need them. We need them. How do we get them? And so, these quilters were sewing away using, leftover quilt scraps. And I would pick up a bag of masks once a week on Senator Antonio's front porch.
Wow.
And, the way it worked is there was a pocket in the front. They tied behind your head and you had to put in a coffee filter. Right? But it was better than what we had, which was nothing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, it was wonderful the way the community stepped up to provide support and also to contribute, because food donations plummeted at the same time the need was skyrocketing. I mean, there were so many problems in the supply chain, and there wasn't a lot of surplus food available for manufacturers and at supermarkets, right? And so, we had to do, and we're still doing, a whole lot of buying, and the community helped us do that through contributions. And so I was proud of our community too.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, that was a tough time for everybody, but that especially for you, because you had to keep going to work and providing. That's
Is that what you thought I'd say?
That's exactly what I thought you would say. It was it was a tough time.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. But we made it through, and I think we're stronger because of it. We learned so much about what's possible, and I think developed a lot of confidence together about what we can do, and what we need to do for our community. And that, of course, led to our whole expansion project and our new partner distribution hub and our first community resource center, which is exciting.
Yeah, all good things.
Yeah, which is really exciting.
So, as we've talked about, kind of, families are strapped. We talked about kind of the drive-throughs, etc. But so in the spirit of eating healthier foods, cooking at home, what recipe did you bring today? Under $25.
I didn't bring a written recipe.
No, you don't. That's fine.
Good, but it's
verbally,
This is a go-to for our family. I have two teenage girls, married with two teenage girls, 18 and 14, and our youngest daughter loves tacos. The rest of the family's gotten a little tired of tacos on Taco Tuesday. So, but one thing everybody likes is the Mexican bowl. And so everybody in our house can make it. Everybody in our house enjoys it. It's really affordable, right? Rice, black beans, some sort of taco-like protein. So it could be ground beef, could be turkey, could even be tofu, right? With seasoning, with taco seasoning. Tomato, lettuce, whatever we've got in the fridge, and a little cheese or salsa on top, and we're good to go. So not only is it, reasonably healthy, family friendly, affordable, but, my last qualifier is it's fast.
Yeah.
And, that's something I'm looking for to be able to get dinner on the table on a weeknight.
Outstanding. Yeah, the black beans seem to come up a lot from they have good nutrition, they're easy. 99
cents if you get them on sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's good stuff. I would also say, if you don't mind me making one last plug, this is the time of year that I'm talking about our Harvest for Hunger campaign.
Okay.
So big community-wide food and funds drive happens every springtime. All of the supermarkets are participants in it, which is wonderful. And a lot of organizations and individuals support it as well. So if there are listeners out there who have been inspired and want to find a way to support the food bank or our partner agencies, you can do that through the Harvest for Hunger campaign. And there are lots of ways to get involved on our website.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know you mentioned the involvement. You need some more volunteers. So
Mhm.
the website is just
It's clevelandfoodbank.org.
okay. There you go.
clevelandfoodbank.org. So you can sign up to advocate, to volunteer, or to make a donation online.
Fantastic. Thank you. That was my last question. Is kind of where to find you and how to get involved.
Oh, great.
So that's, thank you very much for being here today. That was a great conversation.
Ken, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's a really nice opportunity.
Yeah, very much
I
appreciate
hope
it.
we can keep in touch.
Yes, we will. Thank
That's
you.
great.